The divine crash. Nova Mercer's hands flew across the shuttle's control panel, her fingers dancing between holographic warning signals like a maestro conducting a symphony of disaster. The Helios Syndicate pursuit ships were gaining 3 sleek predators with ion cannons that could vaporize her stolen vessel in seconds. "Come on, you piece of junk," she muttered, diving toward the atmospheric boundary of an unregistered planet. The neural interface prototype, worth more than she would earn in 10 lifetimes, was secured in a quantum-locked case strapped to her chest. The irony wasn't lost on her. The most valuable piece of technology in the quadrant, and it might as well be a tombstone if she couldn't shake her pursuers. The ship bucked violently as the first ion blast grazed her port stabilizer. Emergency lights bathed the cockpit in crimson. Nova had broadcast her escape across the pirate networks, her signature move. Almost 8 million underground viewers were watching her fight for survival. The stream revenue alone would fund her next score if she lived long enough to collect it. "Ladies, gentlemen, and varied entities of the quantum web," she announced to her invisible audience, forcing bravado into her voice as she activated the emergency burn sequence. "Nova Mercer is about to attempt the impossible, atmospheric entry with failing shields and half a stabilizer. Place your bets now." The chat stream scrolling across her retinal implant erupted with predictions ranging from smooth landing to spectacular fireball. Nova grimaced. Her viewers weren't known for their optimism. As the planet's amber atmosphere engulfed her shuttle, the temperature in the cockpit soared. Sweat beaded on Nova's copper-brown skin, trickling down her temple as she fought the controls. The prototype pressed against her sternum like a burning coal. "Atmospheric composition suggests breathable air," her ship's AI announced, its voice unnervingly calm. "Probability of survival, 17%. "Better odds than I usually get," Nova replied through gritted teeth. The shuttle broke through cloud cover, revealing a landscape that seemed to shimmer, vast plains covered in what looked like gossamer grass that caught the light of a massive binary star system. The beauty was lost on Nova as warning klaxons screamed around her. The starboard engine failed catastrophically, sending the ship into an uncontrollable spin. "Brace for impact in 10, 9, 8, the AI began. Nova never heard the end of the countdown. The world became a chaos of screeching metal, shattering glass, and sudden, profound darkness. Pain awakened her, sharp, insistent, and everywhere at once. Nova forced her eyes open, blinking away blood from a gash on her forehead. The cockpit was crushed, daylight streaming through multiple breaches in the hull. Her internal chronometer told her she'd been unconscious for 23 minutes. Her first coherent thought was of the prototype. Her hands scrabbled at her chest, relief washing over her when she felt the case still securely fastened. Her second thought was of her broadcast. The transmission node on her temple was blinking green. The stream was still active. 8.5 million viewers now, according to her retinal display. Nothing boosted viewership like a catastrophe. "As you can see," Nova croaked, pushing herself upright with a groan, "reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated." She attempted her trademark crooked smile, tasting blood. "Though I admit it was a close call." She dragged herself from the wreckage, assessing the damage. The shuttle was beyond salvage, torn open like a metallic fish gutted by an industrial processor. Around her stretched fields of what she now could see was crystalline vegetation, translucent stalks that chimed softly in the breeze, refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns across the ground. Nova's danger sense prickled. She wasn't alone. A figure stood motionless about 20 meters away, partially obscured by the crystalline foliage. Nova's hand instinctively moved to her pulse pistol, still holstered at her hip. "I come in peace," she called out, the universal translator patch on her throat converting her words to a mathematical sequence that most sentient species could understand. "My ship crashed. I mean no harm." The figure moved forward with fluid grace. Nova's breath caught in her throat. The being stood at least 7 feet tall, humanoid but unmistakably alien. Its skin was a deep azure, marked with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with internal light. Most striking were the eyes, large, luminous orbs of silver that reflected the binary suns like perfect mirrors. Instead of hair, elongated crystal-like structures extended from its scalp, catching the light in hypnotic patterns. Nova had encountered dozens of species in her smuggling career, but nothing like this. The alien approached slowly, then to Nova's astonishment, dropped to its knees before her. It bowed its head, revealing an elaborate pattern of glowing markings that ran down its spine. "The prophecy is fulfilled," the being said, its voice melodious yet masculine, the words translated by Nova's patch with only a slight delay. The oracle has arrived when the twin suns align. Nova blinked in confusion. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just a human. My name is Nova Mercer. The alien looked up, silver eyes widening. You speak our language. Truly, the ancient texts were correct about your wisdom. He placed a four-fingered hand over his chest. I am Thorin, High Priest of the Laminian Conclave. I have waited my entire existence for this moment. Nova's survival instincts warred with her curiosity. What moment exactly? Your arrival, Divine One, Thorin said reverently. For generations, we have awaited the smooth-skinned oracle who would fall from the stars when the twin suns enter perfect alignment. He gestured upward where the binary stars indeed formed a perfect figure eight in the amber sky. Nova's retinal display flashed with viewer comments. Play along, Nova. They think you're a god. Stardrifter 99. Ask if they have spaceport facilities. Warp Jumper. Bow before the oracle. Quantum Queen. Nova silenced the feed with a blink. This was an unexpected complication. Listen, Thorin, I appreciate the warm welcome, but I'm not an oracle or a divine being. She hesitated, deciding that criminal data smuggler might not be the best introduction. Traveler. My ship malfunctioned, and I crashed. Thorin's luminous patterns pulsed more intensely. Yes, the sacred texts foretold your humility. The oracle shall deny divinity, for true wisdom acknowledges its limits. He produced an ornate chain of crystalline links from a pouch at his waist. Please, Divine One, allow me the honor of being your first servant. Before Nova could object, Thorin fastened one end of the chain to a bracelet on his wrist. He held out the other end to her, his expression hopeful. Is that a leash? Nova asked incredulously. The bond of guidance, Thorin corrected. It symbolizes my dedication to your divine purpose. I will guide you through our world and attend to your needs. Nova's mind raced. She needed to find communications equipment, contact her fence on Proxima Station, and arrange extraction before Helios Syndicate traced her crash site. Having a native guide could be invaluable, even if his motivations were based on religious misunderstanding. Her stream continued to explode with comments, the viewer count now exceeding 9 million. This bizarre encounter was proving excellent for ratings. I won't take your bond of guidance, Nova said firmly. Where I come from, we don't chain sentient beings. Thorin's crystalline cranial structures clinked together in what might have been confusion. But Divine One, the bond honors both participants. Without it, others may attempt to claim you for themselves. The prophecy of the oracle is known throughout our world. Nova's danger sense tingled again. Others? How many others believe in this oracle prophecy? All Aminians await your coming, Thorin said simply. From the crystal spires of Ilaria to the resonance fields of the southern hemisphere. Your arrival heralds the age of enlightenment. Perfect. She crashed on a planet where the entire population would be fighting to capture her as their religious figurehead. Nova fought the urge to laugh hysterically. Is there a settlement nearby? She asked. I need to commune with the stars. It wasn't entirely a lie, she desperately needed to contact her network. Thorin rose fluidly to his feet. The sacred city of Ilaria lies beyond the Singing Plains. I can guide you there, but the journey requires crossing the glass forest. He hesitated. There are dangers. Not all who await the oracle have pure intentions. Nova checked her equipment, pulse pistol, molecular blade, emergency mechit, and the prototype itself. The neural interface was designed to connect human consciousness directly to quantum data networks, technology that could revolutionize or weaponize interstellar communication, depending on who controlled it. I can handle dangers, she said with more confidence than she felt. Lead the way, Thorin. As they began their journey across the crystalline landscape, Nova activated her personal drone, a fist-sized sphere that hovered above her shoulder, capturing footage for her stream. The viewers needed to see what she was seeing. For those just joining, she narrated quietly as Thorin walked ahead. I've crash-landed on an uncharted world where the natives apparently worship humans as divine oracles. The good news, I've got a guide. The bad news, everyone on this planet will be hunting me, including the local religious authorities who want to put me on a leash. The drone captured Thorin turning back, his silver eyes reflecting Nova's image. Divine One? Who are you addressing? Nova gestured vaguely upward. Just communing with the cosmos. Oracle stuff. Thorin's facial markings pulsed with what Nova interpreted as reverence. The texts mention your connection to the greater universe. You can perceive realities beyond our comprehension. Something like that, Nova muttered. As they crossed a ridge, the full majesty of the landscape revealed itself. The singing plains stretched for kilometers, the crystalline vegetation creating natural harmonies as wind passed through them. In the distance loomed what must be the glass forest, towering structures like massive transparent trees, refracting the sunlight into rainbow patterns across the plains. And beyond that, barely visible on the horizon, stood spires of impossible height and beauty, Ilaria, the sacred city. Nova checked her emergency beacon. No rescue would come soon enough. Her only chance was to reach civilization, find communications technology compatible with her equipment, and contact Proxima Station before Helios Syndicate's hunters arrived. Tell me about this prophecy, Nova said as they descended toward the plains. Why would an oracle come to your world? Thorin's pace slowed. The ancient texts say that in the time before memory, beings like you walked among us, gifting knowledge and shaping our evolution. They departed with a promise. When the Laminians were ready to join the greater universe, an oracle would return to guide us to enlightenment. Nova felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. The timeline matched humanity's early interstellar exploration period, 3 centuries ago. Had humans discovered this world during the first expansion? The corporate database embedded in the prototype might contain information about this planet, but accessing it would require wearing the interface, something Nova had been explicitly warned against doing. What knowledge did these beings share? Nova asked carefully. They taught us to harmonize with the crystal resonance of our world, Thorin explained. To build structures that amplify consciousness and connect minds. But the greatest secrets were kept from us until the oracle's return. His silver eyes fixed on hers. You will unlock the ancestral chamber beneath the Temple of Resonance. Inside lies the Enlightenment engine. The neural interface prototype pulsed against Nova's chest as if responding to Thorin's words. Something about Enlightenment engine triggered a connection in her mind. She'd stolen the prototype from Helios Syndicate's most secure research facility, a facility called Project Enlightenment. This couldn't be coincidence. Nova's thoughts were interrupted by a high-pitched hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Thorin froze, his luminous patterns dimming suddenly. Divine One, he whispered. We must seek cover immediately. What is it? Nova asked, hand moving to her pulse pistol. Seeker drones of the Purification Sect, Thorin said, pulling her toward a depression in the crystal landscape. They believe the oracle prophecy to be metaphorical. They will attempt to capture you for study. Nova didn't like the pause before study. She allowed Thorin to guide her into the crystalline hollow just as 5 sleek, obsidian objects streaked across the sky. They moved with uncanny precision, their surfaces absorbing rather than reflecting light. These purification people, Nova whispered as the drones circled overhead. What exactly would they do with me? Thorin's patterns pulsed with distress. They believe divine wisdom resides in the physical form. They would extract it. Dissection, Nova translated grimly. Wonderful. The drones emitted focused beams of energy that systematically swept the plains. Nova's hand tightened on her weapon. She'd come too far to end up on an alien autopsy table. Her stream viewers were sending frantic warnings and suggestions, most of them useless. But one caught her attention, the prototype. Use it. Nova considered the neural interface. According to the stolen specs, it could potentially connect with any advanced technology, possibly including those drones. But using it carried enormous risk. The prototype was untested on human subjects. It could fry her neural pathways or worse. The scanning beams drew closer to their hiding place. Divine One, Thorin whispered urgently, if they find us, you must allow me to surrender myself. I will claim I am preparing you for the purification rite. It may buy us time. Nova made her decision. That won't be necessary. She reached for the quantum-locked case at her chest, pressing her thumb against the biometric scanner. The case opened with a soft hiss, revealing the neural interface, a delicate circlet of platinum and carbon nanotubes. What is that divine artifact? Thorin asked, his voice hushed with awe. Either our salvation or the worst mistake of my life, Nova replied, placing the circlet on her head. The world exploded into light and information. Nova gasped as her consciousness expanded exponentially, connecting with every piece of technology within a kilometer radius. She could feel the drones now, primitive compared to the interface, but still complex machines with exploitable programming. With a thought, she infiltrated their systems and rewrote their search parameters. The drones immediately changed course, speeding away toward the distant mountains. Nova removed the interface with shaking hands, her vision swimming as her consciousness contracted back to normal parameters. "They're gone," she managed, fighting waves of nausea. Thorin stared at her with newfound reverence. "You commanded the Purifier's machines with your mind. The text spoke truly of your power." Nova carefully returned the interface to its case, locking it securely. The brief connection had revealed something unexpected, fragments of data about Project Enlightenment. Helios Syndicate hadn't created the neural interface technology. They had discovered it, salvaged from an ancient human expedition to this very planet. The pieces were starting to fit together, forming a picture Nova wasn't sure she wanted to see. Whatever the Enlightenment engine beneath Illyria's temple might be, it was connected to the prototype she'd stolen. And Helios Syndicate would stop at nothing to recover both. "We need to reach Illyria as quickly as possible," Nova said, rising from their hiding place. "And you need to tell me everything you know about the ancestral chamber and this Enlightenment engine." As they resumed their journey across the singing plains, Nova felt the weight of millions of eyes watching her stream, and the heavier weight of realization. She hadn't randomly crashed on this planet. Whether by cosmic coincidence or some unseen design, she had brought the key back to its lock. And she had no idea what would be unleashed when they were reunited. The Prophet's Choice. The glass forest loomed before Nova and Thorin like a cathedral built by giants, enormous transparent structures that only vaguely resembled trees. Their crystalline trunks spiraled hundreds of meters skyward, branches interlocking to form a canopy that fractured sunlight into dazzling spectrums. "We must proceed with caution," Thorin warned as they approached the forest's edge. "The glass guardians are drawn to sound and movement." Nova's retinal display showed her viewer count had reached 12 million, a personal record. The chat scrolled with theories about the planet's connection to the neural interface, most of them wild speculation. She'd been careful not to broadcast her suspicions about Helios Syndicate's true interest in Lumina. "What exactly are glass guardians?" Nova asked, keeping her voice low. As if in answer, a crystalline structure nearby shivered. What Nova had mistaken for an unusually formed tree trunk unfolded into a towering, translucent being. Its body was composed of interlocking geometric shapes that constantly rearranged themselves, creating an ever-shifting form that stood at least 15 meters tall. "That," Thorin whispered, "is a guardian." The creature moved with surprising grace for its size, each step releasing harmonic tones that resonated through the forest. It hadn't noticed them yet, its faceted head turned toward the canopy where shafts of binary sunlight created prismatic patterns. "Are they sentient?" Nova asked, fascinated despite her fear. "They're ancient consciousnesses," Thorin explained. "The first iteration of Laminian life, before we evolved our current forms. They protect the resonance patterns of the forest." Nova's hand instinctively touched the case containing the neural interface. "And they're hostile?" "They recognize Laminians as kindred, but they have no memory of smooth skins. They might perceive you as a disruption to the resonance." Thorin removed a small crystalline orb from his pouch. "This harmonic focus will help mask your presence. Hold it close." Nova accepted the orb, surprised by its warmth. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, emitting a subtle tone that seemed to blend with the ambient sounds of the forest. They moved forward cautiously, weaving between massive crystal trunks. Nova muted her broadcast's audio. The last thing she needed was 12 million viewers gasping collectively and alerting the Guardians. The forest interior was a wonderland of light and sound. Crystal formations created natural amphitheaters where harmonics collected and amplified. In one vast clearing, hundreds of tiny crystalline creatures, like hummingbirds made of living glass, danced in complex formations, their movements creating a symphony of chiming notes. "Resonant sprites," Thorin explained, his voice filled with reverence. "They are drawn to perfect harmonies." Nova watched, transfixed, as the sprites suddenly changed formation, spiraling toward her with curious intensity. They circled her head, their tiny crystalline bodies reflecting her image in countless facets. "They sense your divine resonance," Thorin whispered. Before Nova could respond, the ground trembled. A thunderous harmony rolled through the forest as 3 glass guardians converged on their position, moving with alarming speed for creatures of such size. "Run!" Thorin grabbed Nova's hand, pulling her between crystal trunks. Nova sprinted alongside him, the harmonic focus clutched to her chest. The Guardians pursued, their movements releasing cascading tones that seemed to communicate complex information. Whatever they were saying, it didn't sound friendly. This way, Thorin veered sharply, leading Nova into a narrow crevice between two massive crystal formations. The space widened into a small chamber, its walls pulsing with soft blue light. A resonance node. They cannot enter without disrupting the harmonic balance. Nova caught her breath, checking that the prototype was still secure. I don't think they appreciated my divine presence. The Guardians serve a different aspect of Lemnian spirituality, Thorin explained, his luminous patterns shifting to a deeper blue. They commune directly with the planet's crystalline core. Nova's danger sense prickled again. Thorin, what really happens when the Oracle unlocks the ancestral chamber? The High Priest hesitated, his silver eyes dimming slightly. The texts say the Oracle will activate the Enlightenment engine, elevating Lemnian consciousness to join the cosmic community. And what if I told you I know what the Enlightenment engine is? Nova said carefully. That it's technology from my people's past, powerful technology that others are desperate to control? Thorin's patterns pulsed with surprise. You have regained your ancestral memories? Nova decided a partial truth was necessary. When I used my divine artifact to redirect those drones, I glimpsed information about your world. Human explorers, beings like me, visited Lumina centuries ago. They left technology behind, technology connected to this. She tapped the case containing the interface. Then the prophecies are true, Thorin said, his voice filled with wonder. The Smoothskins did promise to return when we were ready. But ready for what? Nova pressed. What exactly happens when the Enlightenment engine activates? Before Thorin could answer, the wall of the chamber shimmered, and a portion of it became transparent like a window. Beyond it stood the tallest glass guardian they had seen yet, its crystalline face pressed against the barrier, observing them with what seemed like curiosity rather than hostility. A series of harmonic tones reverberated through the chamber, complex and layered. To Nova's surprise, Thorin responded with his own series of crystal-clear notes, his vocal range extending far beyond what seemed physically possible. His luminous patterns synchronized with the tones, creating visual harmonics that complemented the sound. The exchange continued for several minutes before the Guardian withdrew from the wall, which solidified once more. What just happened? Nova asked. The Guardian Elder recognized your resonance pattern, Thorin said, his expression troubled. It matches the frequency signature encoded in the sacred chamber beneath the Temple of Resonance. They will allow us passage through the forest. That's convenient, Nova said, suspicious of anything that seemed too easy. The Guardians serve the greater harmony, Thorin replied. If your presence is required to complete an ancient resonance pattern, they will facilitate rather than hinder. They emerged from the chamber to find a path cleared through the forest, glass guardians standing like sentinels on either side, their crystalline bodies refracting light to create a luminous roadway toward the distant spires of Ilaria. Nova stream viewers were ecstatic, the comment feed scrolling faster than she could track. The visual spectacle of the Guardians forming an honor guard was unlike anything she had broadcast before. As they walked the illuminated path, Nova considered her options. The neural interface prototype was clearly designed to interact with whatever technology lay hidden beneath Ilaria's temple. Helios Syndicate must have discovered references to Lumina in ancient exploration records and realized the commercial potential of the Enlightenment engine. But what was it? A weapon? A communication device? A repository of knowledge? You still haven't told me what the Enlightenment engine actually does, Nova said as they neared the forest's edge. Thorin's pace slowed. The sacred texts are ambiguous. They say it will elevate consciousness beyond physical limitation and unite Lemnian minds with the cosmic symphony. Nova frowned. That could mean anything from a spiritual enlightenment to a technological singularity, or something far more sinister. Mind control, perhaps, or forced consciousness transfer. And all Lemnians want this, she asked. Most do, Thorin admitted. But there are factions. The Purification sect believes the engine should be controlled by an elite few. The Harmonic Collective thinks its benefits should be distributed equally. And the Resonance Preservers. He hesitated. Let me guess, they don't want it activated at all. Thorin nodded. They fear change, believing our current harmony is perfect. They emerged from the glass forest to behold Ilaria in its full glory. The sacred city sprawled across a vast crystalline plateau, its transparent spires catching the light of the setting binary suns. Unlike human architecture, Alaria's structures seemed grown rather than built, rising organically from the crystal bedrock in spiraling patterns that reflected mathematical perfection. At the city's center stood the Temple of Resonance, a massive dome surrounded by 7 slender towers arranged in a perfect heptagon. The entire structure pulsed with rhythmic light, as if the building itself were breathing. "It's beautiful," Nova whispered, genuinely awestruck. "The physical manifestation of Laminian harmony," Thorin said proudly, "and soon to be transformed by your divine intervention." As they approached the city gates, elaborate crystalline structures that emitted complex harmonies as they swung open, Nova noticed a gathering crowd. Word of their arrival had spread. Hundreds of Laminians lined the boulevards, their luminous patterns pulsing with excitement. "The oracle approaches," voices called out in melodious tones. "The prophecy is fulfilled." Nova's pulse quickened. This was rapidly becoming more complicated than a simple extraction plan. These people had placed their hopes in a prophecy she had stumbled into by accident. "Divine One," Thorin said quietly, "the Grand Conclave awaits at the temple. The Grand Seer Zolara will expect you to interpret the sacred text before granting access to the ancestral chamber." "Interpret text I've never seen?" Nova hissed. "How am I supposed to do that?" "Your divine wisdom will guide you," Thorin said with absolute confidence. Nova suppressed a groan. Her divine wisdom was currently limited to smuggling expertise and quick thinking. Neither seemed adequate for deciphering alien religious texts. Unless she touched the case containing the neural interface. If it was truly connected to the technology beneath the temple, it might contain information about the text as well. Using it again was risky. The prototype had never been tested for repeated human use, but her options were dwindling. The procession through Alaria's crystal streets lasted nearly an hour. Nova maintained her composure, smiling at the adoring crowds while her mind raced through potential escape scenarios. Her viewer count had topped 15 million, almost half the population of her home system. If she survived this, she'd be the most famous streamer in the quadrant. The Temple of Resonance loomed larger as they approached. Up close, Nova could see that its surface was inscribed with countless symbols that shifted and rearranged themselves in patterns too complex to follow. The domes seemed to sing, emitting a constant harmonic that made her skin tingle. At the temple's entrance stood 7 tall Laminians, their crystalline cranial structures more elaborate than Thorin's, suggesting advanced age or status. Their skin patterns glowed with intense blue-white light, pulsing in synchronized waves. "The Circle of Seers," Thorin whispered, "led by Grand Seer Zolara." The tallest of the 7 stepped forward. Zolara's face was a map of luminous patterns, each line telling a story of centuries lived in devotion to Laminian spirituality. His silver eyes fixed on Nova with penetrating intensity. "The being who claims to be the oracle," Zolara said, his melodious voice carrying an edge of skepticism. "Approach and be recognized." Nova stepped forward, acutely aware of the millions watching. "I am Nova Mercer," she said, deciding that honesty might be her best strategy. "I crashed on your world while fleeing pursuers. I don't claim to be your oracle, but I may have information about your ancestral chamber." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zolara's patterns pulsed with what Nova interpreted as displeasure. "The true oracle would recognize the sacred harmonies," Zolara declared. "If you are indeed the divine being of prophecy, interpret the shifting text." He gestured to the dome, where the symbols flowed like liquid across the surface. Nova took a deep breath. It was time to gamble. "I'll need a moment to commune with the cosmic consciousness," she said, backing away slightly. Finding a relatively private spot beside a crystal pillar, she removed the neural interface from its case. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed it on her head. The connection was even more intense than before. Nova's consciousness expanded exponentially, connecting not just with technology but with the crystalline structures of Alaria itself. The city was alive with data, harmonic frequencies, resonance patterns, mathematical sequences that formed a complex language she suddenly understood. The shifting text wasn't religious scripture, it was code. Ancient human programming language adapted to Laminian sensory capabilities, disguised as spiritual symbolism. And the neural interface translated it effortlessly. Nova approached the dome, her eyes tracking the flowing symbols with new comprehension. "The text speaks of transformation," she announced, her voice steady despite the strain of maintaining the neural connection. "It describes how consciousness can transcend physical limitations through harmonic resonance." She reached out, touching a specific sequence of symbols. They responded to her contact, glowing more intensely. This section contains instructions for preparing the collective consciousness. When minds unite in perfect harmony, the barriers between thought and reality dissolve. Zolara's luminous patterns pulsed with shock. She reads the unreadable sequence, he whispered. Only the true oracle could interpret the patterns that shift too quickly for Laminian perception. Nova continued, translating complex mathematical formulas into concepts the Laminians could understand. The engine was not built to control, but to connect. Not to elevate a few, but to unite the many. As she spoke, something unexpected happened. The neural interface began integrating more deeply with her consciousness, revealing the true nature of the Enlightenment engine and humanity's connection to Lumina. 3 centuries ago, the first human explorers had discovered the Laminians, a species with remarkable potential for consciousness expansion through harmonic resonance. The humans had helped the Laminians refine their natural abilities, creating a technology that could eventually unite their species in a collective consciousness network while maintaining individual identity. But the experiment was abandoned when corporate interests recognized the military potential. The technology was deemed too dangerous. The project shut down, and the Laminians left with only fragments of knowledge and a promise that someone would return to complete their evolution when the time was right. The neural interface Nova had stolen wasn't just a communication device. It was the activation key for the Enlightenment engine, designed to be used by a human consciousness to initiate the harmonic network. Nova removed the interface, her mind reeling from the revelation. The great conclave stared at her in awe. The oracle has spoken, Thorin declared, his voice filled with reverence. Zolara bowed deeply. The ancestral chamber awaits your presence, Divine One. The temple dome split along invisible seams, opening like a crystalline flower to reveal a spiraling staircase that descended into darkness. Nova followed Zolara and Thorin down the steps, her retinal display showing that her stream had now reached 20 million viewers, the largest audience in pirate network history. The ancestral chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls composed of what appeared to be liquid crystal that flowed in continuous patterns. At the chamber's center stood a crystalline pedestal supporting a device that looked remarkably similar to the neural interface, but much larger and more complex. The Enlightenment engine, Zolara intoned, dormant for 3 centuries, awaiting the oracle's touch. Nova approached the pedestal slowly, examining the device. It was unmistakably human technology, but integrated with Laminian crystalline components in a way that suggested true collaboration rather than exploitation. Once activated, what happens? Nova asked. The sacred texts say all Laminians will join in harmony while retaining individuality, Thorin explained. Our consciousness will expand beyond physical limitations, allowing us to perceive realities currently hidden from us. Nova understood now. The Enlightenment engine was a planetary-scale neural network, designed to connect Laminian minds through their natural resonance abilities. Not mind control, but mind expansion, a gift from humanity's more idealistic past. But if Helios Syndicate acquired this technology, they would weaponize it. Forced consciousness manipulation, remote neural control, memory extraction, the military applications were endless and horrifying. As if summoned by her thoughts, alarms sounded from above. Thorin's patterns pulsed with alarm. Orbital vessels have entered Laminian atmosphere, he reported. Unknown design, but they match no known Laminian craft. Nova's blood ran cold. Helios Syndicate. They found me. Her retinal display confirmed her fears. Corporate hunter ships were descending toward Ilaria, at least 5 vessels armed with enough firepower to level the Crystal City if necessary. You must activate the engine immediately, Zolara urged. Only then will we have the collective consciousness needed to defend ourselves. Nova hesitated. I don't know what it will do to you, to all of you. The technology was never fully tested. The prophecy speaks of risk, Thorin said quietly, but also of transformation that cannot be achieved without courage. Nova faced an impossible choice. Activate unknown technology that might fundamentally alter an entire species' consciousness, or allow Helios Syndicate to capture both her and the engine, ensuring it would be weaponized against countless worlds. There's a third option, she said suddenly. I use the interface to communicate with your people, not to activate the engine fully, but to create a temporary network, enough to coordinate your defenses against the incoming ships. Zolara and Thorin exchanged glances. Such a partial activation is not mentioned in the texts, Zolara said hesitantly. The texts were written before corporate mercenaries with ion cannons became a factor, Nova pointed out. Sometimes prophecies need updating. After a brief conference with the other seers, Zalara nodded. Proceed, Oracle. Guide us in defense of the sacred harmony. Nova placed the neural interface on her head once more, then connected it to the Enlightenment engine. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Her consciousness expanded exponentially, touching the minds of every Lemnian in Ilaria. Their thoughts, emotions, and perceptions flowed through her like a vast harmonic river. Through this connection, she coordinated their response. The glass guardians of the forest were summoned to the city's perimeter. Resonance weapons, devices that could disrupt electronic systems with targeted harmonic pulses, were distributed to Lemnian defenders. Nova reached further, connecting with the city's crystalline infrastructure. Ilaria itself was a technology, she realized, a massive resonance amplifier that could be reconfigured to create a defensive shield against energy weapons. Through her stream, she spoke to her millions of viewers. Helios Syndicate is attacking an innocent species to capture technology they don't understand. Spread the word. Make them famous for this atrocity. The first hunter ship entered visual range, its weapons systems charging. Nova directed a concentrated resonance pulse toward it, disrupting its targeting systems. The ship veered wildly, nearly colliding with a crystal spire. For nearly an hour, the battle raged above Ilaria. Nova maintained the neural connection, coordinating the Lemnian defense with increasing skill as she adapted to the interface's capabilities. Her stream captured everything, the corporate aggression, the Lemnian resistance, and her own role in uniting them. When the last hunter ship retreated, its systems crippled by harmonic disruption, a cheer rose from the Lemnians. The temporary neural network pulsed with collective joy and relief. Nova carefully disconnected from the engine, removing the interface with trembling hands. The expanded consciousness faded, leaving her feeling strangely diminished yet satisfied. You defended our sacred city without fully activating the engine, Zalara observed. Why? Because true divinity respects choice, Nova replied. The Enlightenment engine should be activated when your people decide they're ready, not when an outsider decides for them. Thorin's patterns pulsed with what Nova now recognized as profound respect. You truly are the oracle of prophecy, though not as we imagined. Nova smiled wearily. I'm a data smuggler who crashed on your planet at the right moment. But I do have a proposal. In the days that followed, Nova used her unprecedented stream popularity to negotiate protection for Lumina. With 20 million witnesses to Helios Syndicate's attempted raid, corporate lawyers were scrambling to contain the public relations disaster. Nova leveraged this into a non-interference agreement. With the added protection of continuous public surveillance, her stream would maintain a permanent presence on Lumina, ensuring any corporate aggression would be instantly broadcast to the quadrant. As for the Enlightenment engine, Nova worked with the Lemnian Conclave to establish a phased activation plan, gradual implementation that would allow their society to adapt to expanded consciousness over time rather than in a single, potentially traumatic event. On her final day in Ilaria, Nova stood with Thorin on the highest crystal spire, watching the binary sunset paint the city in amber and gold. You could stay, Thorin said quietly. Your presence gives our people hope. Nova considered the offer seriously. For years, she had drifted through the quadrant, stealing corporate secrets and broadcasting her exploits, always running, never belonging. On Lumina, she had found purpose beyond survival. I can do more good as your advocate in the wider universe, she finally replied. But I'll return. Often. She touched the neural interface, now permanently modified to maintain a connection to Lemnian consciousness without risking human neural pathways. Through it, she could remotely monitor the Enlightenment engine's gradual awakening and intervene if necessary. The prophecy spoke of an oracle who would guide us to join the cosmic community, Thorin said. Perhaps that guidance takes a different form than we expected. Nova smiled, activating her stream one last time from Lumina's surface. To my faithful viewers across the quadrant, this is Nova Mercer, signing off from the crystal world of Lumina, not as a divine oracle, but as a friend to an extraordinary species teaching me more about harmony than I could ever teach them. 25 million viewers watched as she boarded her new ship, a gift from the Lemnian Conclave, crystalline components integrated with conventional technology to create a hybrid vessel unlike any in the quadrant. As she lifted off from the crystal plateau, Nova felt something she hadn't experienced in years, certainty. Her path forward was clear, protector of Lumina, mediator between worlds, and perhaps, in her own way, the oracle these people had been waiting for. The ship accelerated into the upper atmosphere, leaving a prismatic trail across Lumina's amber sky. Below, the citizens of Ilaria watched their unorthodox savior depart, their luminous patterns pulsing in a harmonic farewell that could be seen from orbit. Nova set course for the nearest free port, already planning her return. After all, divine beings or not, humans kept their promises, at least this one would.